And of course, if you guys didn't catch the intro, we're still continuing on with the Universal Monsters series of the Frankenstein franchise. Today we're going to talk about and review Ghost of Frankenstein. Now, Ghost of Frankenstein is an interesting little thing because this is the fourth film in the Universal Monsters Frankenstein series, and you notice a couple of changes. Mainly, the big obvious one, of course, is that Boris Karloff is no longer Frankenstein in this one. If you guys didn't check out my last review, you would know that Boris Karloff left that movie for, well, personal reasons. He just felt like he didn't want to do the monster anymore. So instead, we got Lon Chaney Jr., aka the Wolfman, and many other faces, the son of Lon Chaney, the late great Lon Chaney, who's more famous for playing silent movie roles such as The Phantom and Phantom of the Opera. Yes, that Lon Chaney Jr., in case you guys didn't know. But yes, we have the Wolfman play for the Frankenstein monster. And, of course, you got your same old cast of characters. You got Bela Lugosi returning as Igor, who plays a fantastic Igor like always. And that's pretty much it. Pretty much, that's the only two recurring characters, is the monster and Igor in this movie. Now, the interesting thing about this movie also is that it's a little more campy. Again, I probably forgot to mention this, but that's the other reason why Boris Karloff didn't stay around, because Universal wanted to go in more of a campier B-movie type route, and boy, does it show in this movie. And yeah, it's definitely one of the weaker ones in the series. I mean, the previous Son of Frankenstein wasn't as great as Bride, and the first one, Bride of Frankenstein, excellent. The first one, excellent. But you can definitely see the lack of, I don't know how to say it, but lack of scale in this movie. The other movies had a big production value. This one, yeah, it's not so much. The makeup design on the monster is apparently not Jack Pierce anymore. Apparently this was when he was getting, Universal was basically not wanting to hire him anymore because of the fact his techniques nowadays, they were, I believe, going with more of a foam rubber makeup route, and it was a little more cheaper than, what Jack Pierce's makeup skills were, where he used like real yak hair and a bunch of like, old school type techniques in the makeup design, just using like, I don't know, like, very practical paints and brushes and all that. But this time, Universal, this was when foam rubber was becoming a thing, and they wanted to do that type of route because it saved money and less more, crazy work hours to put in the makeup designs for their creature effects, basically. Now, with that being said, where does this movie take place? Well, with it being a fourth movie, it literally picks up where the last movie left off. Essentially, the villagers in the town are being terrorized by the monster once again. Again, it's not really explained well, but basically the monster is back again. Well, not really the monster, but Igor is wreaking havoc, and people just automatically assume that it's the Frankenstein monster wreaking havoc once again. Obviously, that's not the case, because, well, the Frankenstein monster is still in a little bit of a coma from Son of Frankenstein, from his little lava incident. So after the effects of Son of Frankenstein, unfortunately the monster is a little more weak in this one because of the fact the sulfur incident made him a little more less strong and weak. And there's this random scene where he just comes back to life, like it's just one big bolt of lightning and that's it. It's pretty cheesy. I mean, there's not a whole lot of context in this movie. It's just this typical, going forward Frankenstein movie. It's just a very cheesy route it takes. Monster's resurrection. Igor and the monster flee their village because they're about to destroy the monster. Well, the Frankenstein castle, I mean. And there's a cheesy scene that I have to bring up in the movie. In the scene where the villagers are about to wreak havoc on the castle, there's this really cheesy scene where Bela Lugosi is trying to stop the villagers. He literally, I forget how the scene plays out, but literally I mean, Bela Lugosi isn't that big of a guy, so like it's a little bit stretch of possibility. It's a little bit stretched for realism there because Bela Lugosi isn't quite, a muscle-bound guy. But there's a scene where Bela Lugosi is trying to stop the villagers, and for some odd reason, Igor suddenly has super strength in this movie because he literally drops a big old boulder on the villagers, and that's how he stops them. Again, I'm not expecting realism in this movie because once again, it's a late 40s, early 40s Universal monster film, so you kind of gotta stretch a bit of a belief there. But yeah, it's definitely very cheesy and a little out there. So yeah, it's definitely one of the most funniest highlights in the movie is just seeing Bela Lugosi just randomly pick up a boulder and just drop it on villagers. It's just, you just gotta watch it to see. But anyway, I just wanted to mention that scene. So basically the main objective for the journey for Igor and the monster of Frankenstein is basically they're trying to find another lineage of the Frankenstein family tree. Last time it was Baron Frankenstein in the third movie. This time it's another, I guess his brother. It's not really stated, but he's some type of either bloodline through the Victor Frankenstein. But this time around, they're trying to look for Ludwig Frankenstein. They're trying to go into this town called Visaria, which plays a big role, the town, because this is where this town has the whole Monster Mash setting. Basically, House of Dracula, Frankenstein meets the Wolfman, and I believe House of Frankenstein, basically the town sets up that little shared universe thing in the Universal Monster series of the whole Monster Mash thing. So yeah, pretty cool that we actually get some, background and shared universe type stuff for the future Universal Monster Mash films in the later series. So basically, they go over to essentially heal the monster and bring him back to his, full strength, etc., to wreak havoc again. Of course, the monster is being, innocent. Igor just wants to use him for revenge on the villagers at the previous town, etc. But basically, that's why they go on this long, tremendous journey, is to meet one of the relatives of Victor Frankenstein to, boost the monster's strength up. And upon arriving, of course, the villagers in Visaria see Igor and the monster in their town, and they, of course, freak out. There's a cheesy little scene with a little girl there. There's a little girl, one of the constable's children, and she's just like a little girl just playing outside, being an innocent, little girl. And apparently the monster, of course, being very, not with his senses and etc., basically tries to kidnap the girl. Oh yeah, she was basically playing and she lost her ball. Sorry, that's basically why. I forgot. But she's basically playing outside and she loses her ball. Of course, the monster, being, a very helpful type creature, tries to help the little girl to retrieve her ball. Of course, it doesn't work out. She screams because the monster picks her up trying to retrieve her ball. The monster gets arrested by the townspeople's police of Visaria, the Visaria police, and yeah, it's just a very out there concept because literally in this scene you have the Frankenstein monster in shackles while being prosecuted in front of a judge and a jury. Okay? It doesn't leave much to context within the scene because it's just very out there. You just gotta, take it for what it is and just go along with it. It's very cheesy. I mean, props to Lon Chaney Jr. He somehow manages not to, not laugh in this scene because it's very cheesy. I mean, it's just one of the more cheesy scenes in the movie, along with the Igor scene, but it's just out there. You just gotta watch it. That part too is just out there. But anyway, I'm rambling on. But once the monster gets prosecuted, of course, he breaks out and grand, epic fashion and all the Universal monster movies. And meanwhile, when the monster breaks out, Igor meets up with Ludwig, and Ludwig is trying to experiment on. He's essentially a brain surgeon, and he's essentially doing his daily work. Igor notices he's a brain surgeon and tries to blackmail him basically to try to experiment on the monster. At this point, when the monster escapes, Ludwig, I forgot to mention, Ludwig is actually in the courthouse scene to see the monster, and basically they're trying to convince him that he knows that he obviously doesn't, and the monster eventually freaks out about him not recognizing him, and a fit of rage breaks out, etc. And during that part, Ludwig subdues him and knocks him out with some gas to, put the monster down. And during that, they try to examine the monster and to, try to experiment on him on good old Frankenstein fashion. I should have mentioned also Ludwig Frankenstein is played by, the brilliant Cedric Hardwicke, I should say. Sorry, I mispronounced his name. But basically, during this experimentation, one of his assistants, Dr. Theodore Broman, is actually played by Lion Atwell, who's, again, a recurring character actor in the Universal Monster series. He played the constable with that one arm again, and Son of Frankenstein, and again, he just chews the scenery in this movie. He does a terrific performance. Every single scene Lionel Atwell is pure, class and gold. I just love that actor in all these Universal Monster series. He just plays a very good character in this movie, as well as, the last movie in Son of Frankenstein. Just a great character actor as well. He's so good in this. As they're examining the monster, Ludwig is wanting to dissect the monster to see, what his it's not specifically said what type of lineage he is to his Victor Frankenstein, but he basically wants to explore more of what Victor did in the last, in the first movie, and obviously Bowman doesn't want to, want Ludwig to experiment because he's worried that he will be, doing something he shouldn't and do something worse to the monster and make him more stronger, etc. He basically doesn't want him to fool around with nature a bit and cause a big, just shovel with the monster in this movie. And of course, he has a nightmare scene, and basically Bowman, the reason why he doesn't want him dissect him, that it could be considered murder on the monster, so they basically don't want to kill the monster or, try to strengthen him a bit. They just want to let him be and accept all that stuff. So while he's studying his family's journals, Ludwig Frankenstein gets visited by his father, Victor Frankenstein. Again, I forgot to mention this. Ludwig is Ludwig is the son of Victor. And basically, during this whole dream sequence he has about his father, essentially the ghost of his dad says that he should supply the monster with a good brain. So basically, he wants to give the monster a better brain to strengthen him, basically. Of course, earlier on, the monster had killed one of his lab technicians, namely Dr. Conterians. But of course, Igor steps in and says that he wants to have the brain, his own brain, inside the monster, mainly because he's sick of having a broken neck and wants to have a full functioning body again. Doesn't want to be, essentially disabled, basically, anymore. He wants to be, like the monster. Meanwhile, the police find out about the monster whereabouts, and they try to break into the house while the operation is going on. So, when that's taking place, the monster escapes once again and tries to steal the little girl. Again, for whatever reason, he wants the little girl's brain in his head. Again, it's not really explained why, but basically, I guess he wants to feel some kind of connection to the little girl in a very weird friendship type way, I guess. Again, it's not really explained well, but basically the monster tries to kidnap the little girl to have her brain in his body. But it doesn't go quite as well, because the police show up when they hear the disappearance of the little girl. The little girl, screams and stuff, and he reluctantly gives her to Elisa, who's Ludwig's girlfriend. or wait, Ludwig's wife, who tries to protest against the experiments, who's played by Evelyn Ankers, who's also a well-known actress in the other Universal Monsters series movie, The Wolfman. Again, this brilliant actress. She plays a really good role in this one. Like her. I love her as an actress. I thought she was great in Wolfman, but we'll get to that movie when we get to it. But anyway, she gives, the monster gives the little girl to Eliza. And while the brain surgery is being performed with all the chaos happening at the castle, it goes successful, and he's shocked to see that it's Igor talking instead of Igor's voice coming through the monster instead of his lab assistant. Main reason for that is, of course, his assistant Bowman again got blackmailed from Igor, so he was afraid that something would happen when the process if he didn't go with Igor's brain, some medical thing. Again, it just gotta go along with it, basically. But after the whole switcheroo there, Igor takes control of the monster. Now, the funny part is, after Igor takes control of the monster, and you get very awkwardly dubbed lines from Bela Lugosi. You can tell that it's Bela Lugosi talking through the dubbing of Lon Chaney lip singing. It's just a really cheesy moment. Like, it's just so awkward hearing Lon Chaney Jr. being dubbed by Bela Lugosi. It's very out there, but anyway, it's a great scene. Even though it's very cheesy, but the interesting part is, this is what's funny about it, is that during the whole switcheroo process and Igor's brain being in the monster, suddenly Igor, the Igor monster, like, I'm gonna get confused with this, but the Igor monster goes blind. And the main reason for that is because it's not the right blood type. Igor doesn't have the right type of blood for the monster's blood. So basically, he's an opposite blood type. The monster's blood type is different from his, hence why he goes blind, because he's not the right blood type. He's not compatible. And you just see a big, battle ensued between Igor freaking out as a monster. The villagers and the policemen try to blow the house up with gas, and it's just a great scene that plays out. Igor's monster's just throwing a big temper tantrum. He throws stuff around, and unfortunately, with the gas being everywhere, it's just so conveniently there. This lights up the lab, and the monster gets engulfed in flames. Unfortunately, Ludwig dies in part of the process because he gets slapped around and gets zapped at one of the electronic stuff. It's just a really cheesy sleep. Like, literally just slaps him. He just goes flying across the room and goes smacked first into one of the machines in the lab, and that's basically how Ludwig dies. I mean, whatever, okay? You just gotta go along with it. As the scene plays out again, fire bursts out. You get the great moment where the Frankenstein monster is smashing stuff. Bela Lugosi is just, Lon Chaney Jr. is just great. Again, he's a bit stiff in this one because you can tell that he's not really putting as much passion into it as his Wolfman movie, but it plays out kind of cheesy and corny, because you just see this monster just randomly the monster being blind, just randomly smashing stuff he can't see. And it's just a great scene that plays out, and of course, typical fashion in all these Universal monster movies. You just see a grand, epic, closing with the flames escaping from the building. The building crashes. Eliza and Eric escape, and basically that's the end of the movie. And they walk out into a nice sunrise, and, happy music plays, all that fun stuff. So, with that being said, what did I think of Ghost of Frankenstein? Honestly, it's pretty okay. There's not really much to say about Ghost of Frankenstein, because unfortunately, this was where Universal was slowly dipping down in quality, and not a lot of passion was going into their Universal Monsters projects. I mean, this was during the early 40s. I mean, they didn't really start picking up steam till like the 50s with their Creature of the Black Lagoon movies, but even those movies slowly gone downhill too. But yeah, it's just an alright movie. It's definitely not as good as Son of Frankenstein. Of course, it's not. Even Son of Frankenstein is not even good as Bride or the first Frankenstein movie from 1931. Honestly, if I had to rank it, I think this would probably be at the bottom of the list. I mean, just has a few good moments, but a lot of it's very cheesy, and yeah, it's just a very disappointing Frankenstein movie overall. I mean, the main watchability factor in this one is, of course, Igor. I mean, Bela Lugosi just chews the scenery up as Igor. Of course, Lionel Atwill, fantastic. And, you know, it's kind of cool seeing Lon Chaney Jr. in a different monster role instead of the Wolfman. He's also been in other, you know, monster roles as well. It's kind of, fans kind of dub him as the only actor that played all, I believe, for all the more iconic monster movies. He played the Mummy in one of the Mummy movies. He played, well, a descendant of Dracula and son of Dracula, and the Wolfman, obviously, and now Frankenstein. So yeah, he's pretty much covered all the major monster roles in this franchise. And yeah, there's not really much to say, really. I mean, Ghost of Frankenstein, you can take it or leave it, but it's pretty much a mediocre movie. If I had to rate it, as always, I always rate my movies when I do movie reviews. I think I would just go with a 3 out of 5. It's okay. I mean, I think I have more enjoyment with Son of Frankenstein more just because it's Boris Karloff's last film role as a monster in any of the Universal Monster series, so that's a little more, has a little more weight to it than this one. This one is just an easily forgettable movie, and it's definitely the weakest of the Frankenstein movies, and probably the weakest out of all the Universal Monster series overall. There are a few good moments, like I said. Igor chews up the scenery, as always, but it's just a very forgettable movie, and just stick with the major 3 movies if you just want to watch a couple of good Frankie movies of the Universal Monster series. None of the other ones, but yeah, pretty mediocre. So that is it for today's, well, Movie Macabre Monday, guys. Again, it's going to get a little confusing because of the fact I'm going to be doing horror movie reviews every week, so Movie Macabre Monday will probably take a brief hiatus because now we're going to do the horror movie stuff on a weekly basis for October, and to basically gear up towards Halloween, so pretty exciting stuff. So anyways, guys, that is my review for Ghost of Frankenstein. I hope you enjoyed that video. And as always, if you want to stay tuned for more content on my channel and various other things that I do toy reviews, movie reviews, obviously for today's video, and basically anything geek or collectible or whatever is what I like to talk about and do on this channel. If you like that sort of stuff, just stay subscribed on my channel. Give this video a thumbs up, and as always, for more good entertainment, stay entertained. Oh, sorry, back again. Well, back again, but anyway, sorry. Next week's video, well, obviously, we got changed the color scheme up a bit from black and white to colors, so as always, it's gonna snap my fingers. That's right, we're gonna talk about Frankenstein 1994. Considered to be the most faithful adaptation of the Mary Shelley novel. So we're gonna be talking about that next time. So yeah, look forward to that review, guys. So again, just gonna close off here because, well, nothing much to say. So as always, again, for more good entertainment, stay entertained.